Welcome to ASDG classes, and in today's class we will try to practice three basic simple type of practical questions. Now the questions which we will be practicing today are very simple, very straightforward, but the point is that this type of questions will actually help us to build up the confidence. Okay, and this is the confidence only which actually help us to play any type of games, and by games I refer to the programs. Okay, so and the techniques which we will be follow, or what should be our strategy, what should be our thinking, I will discuss all those things while writing the programs. Okay, and yes, without wasting any time, let's move to our practical portion. Thank you. So guys, let's start our practical class. The questions which we will be practicing today is shown on the screen. So first we will try to find out the perimeter of a rectangle. Then in the second question, we will try to find out the volume of a cuboid, and in the third question, we will try to find out the area of a rectangle. This is a simply straightforward questions, okay? You do not need any type of logic. The only thing which you required is to know the formula in order to find out the perimeter, the volume of the cuboid, and the area of a rectangle. That's all, nothing else. But in upcoming videos, we will try to solve more complex type of questions. But right now we are starting with some simple basic type of question, just in order to build confidence. And since we are starting our first practical class today, so I just want to keep the things simple. That's the only motive. Okay, now let's start. Now the important point is to first understand the requirement of the program. So in the first question, what is the requirement? The requirement is to find the perimeter of the rectangle. Clear? Now in order to find the perimeter of the rectangle, what are the things you require? And its length and breadth. So what are the things we will require? In order to find the perimeter, is one is length and second one is breadth. That's all. So these two things are being required in order to find the length, in order to find the perimeter of the rectangle. Okay, now you need to understand the requirement of the program, and in order to fulfill that requirement, what are the things you will be required? In this case, you simply require the length and the breadth. Now for this particular type of question, since it's a formula based question, so you need to know the formula. The formula is 2 into length plus breadth. Okay, 2 into length plus breadth. That's all. So this one is the formula, and we all know this formula. So it's not a you can say a difficult type of code. It's a very simple code. Now the point is how to write this particular thing. So the first one is to take an input for the length, then we need to take input for the breadth. And yes, it's better to take input in the form of float. Why? Because the length can be float and the breadth can be float. Okay, but it's totally depend upon you, but the better choice would be the float one. Okay, so we will take these two parameters values from the users. Okay, we will try to take, and always try to take values from the users. Why? Because we are writing codes for the users only, for the clients. Okay, so it should be a general one, and it should work for all the types of values. But yes, you may argue with me that if the length is negative, then what will happen? But right now we are trying to keep the things simple. So we will assume that the input will be a correct number. Okay, it won't be a you can say a string or anything else. So if any other input other than number has been given, then definitely you will be getting an exception. But yes, as of now, as I'm telling you that we will try to keep the things simple. So yes, now let's start writing the code. So I've already been written the question, and yes, using this hashtag you will be able to write comments in Python. Okay, using hashtag sign, you would be able to write comments within this within Python program. And what is the importance of comment? It's simply helps to increase the understandability and the readability of the program and nothing else. Okay, and these comments don't get executed, they are being ignored by the compiler or the interpreter. So but yes, it's better to write comments in order to make understand ourselves and as well as the one who will be looking at your code. Okay, now so in order to find the perimeter, you would require one length. So let's create a variable and name it as length. Okay guys, there are certain you can say conventions being there. You should follow this type of principles while writing the code, that the variable names should be generic one. Okay, it should be something like while reading its name, we should get an idea what this variable is going to do. So most of the students used to take variables name something like a is equals to something like some input, b is equals to like that. But if you but this particular code will definitely run if you are taking the variables name as a, b, fine. But it is recommended to use variables name as a specific one. Why? Because uh, for you know that what is a and what is b, but for others a and b is something like an anonymous one, means the particular person won't get any idea by looking at the variables name. So the variables name should be a specific one, a general one. By looking at the name, we should get an idea what this variable is going to do. Okay, so let me create the variable again, length, and let's take as float. So float input, and let me give some message. So enter length. Okay, so now we need another parameter, another variable I will be creating, and it's a breadth. Okay, so again let's take it as float input, enter breadth. Okay, fine. So guys, always try to understand that whatever be the line of code you are writing, you should execute that line of code in your mind. Means while writing, why you are writing this particular line and what is the significance of this particular line should be clear to you. If these type of things are clear to you, you would be able to write any type of code. Okay, so this particular statement will help me to take input from the user, a float number, and that particular value will get assigned to a variable name called length. And similarly, this particular statement will do the same thing. It will take another float number from the user and it will get assigned to breadth. Now fine, now let's create a variable called perimeter, and let's use our formula 2 into length plus breadth. That's all. And let me print perimeter equals to comma perimeter. I hope you remember what this print function will help us to do. And if you haven't watched that video, please, it's my request to you that please go to my playlist and have a look to this particular function, print function. So print function helps us to print, and why we are writing in this particular fashion, float input or int input. I have discussed all these things in my theory classes or in my previous videos. So it's my request, if you haven't watched those videos, please have a look to it, so that you will get an you will get an idea of what these particular statements are going to do. Okay, now since this one is a very straightforward question, so no logic is being used. The only thing which is required in this particular code is to know the formula. That's all. But yes, one thing I just want to tell you that a particular code can be written in many different ways. So the approach can be different, and it can be different with respect to the programmer too. So there is no fixed type of answer that this type of code need to be written in this fashion only. You can write in any fashion. It's totally depend upon you. But yes, the point is you should have a clear idea before writing the code. Okay, so it's my request that while writing a particular code, you should first write those codes on your notebook. Why? Because writing those codes on your notebook first will help you to understand what type of thinking you are generating on your mind. So that thinking is the only, means the logic creation is the only part in computer science while writing the code. Okay, so if your logics are clear, if you're able to think it clear, if you are able to visualize the things, then definitely you will be able to write the codes very smartly, very correctly. Okay, and one thing, just as I've told you, that while whatever be the statement you are using while writing the code, you should have an understanding that why you are using that particular statement. So as in this particular code also, this particular statement will help me to take input from the user, a number, a float number. Again, this particular statement will again help me to take a float number from the user, and this particular statement is simply executing the, you can say, is doing the calculation for the perimeter, and that calculation gets assigned to a variable called perimeter. And yes, after that I am printing its value. That's all. The code is done. It's a very simple code. Okay, but yes, most of the student, why, if they are writing their first code, and if they are not understanding, usually seems to remember or rote learning the codes, which is not correct at all. Okay, you should write the code by yourself. You should understand that why we are using the point, the all the things lies in why, why we are using this particular line, or what is the significance of having this line. And yes, as I've told you, that it don't have any fixed answer. Okay, means a fixed programming, a fixed approach. You may create your own approach too. Means in just let me tell you. Okay, let me show you, that would be better. Okay, let me first execute it. And so let's get an output first. So let me write it as perimeter, save it, control S, function F5. Now let me enter the length as 5, let me enter the breadth as 2. So it's 14. The perimeter is 14. Again, it's quite simple. See, as you can see, the perimeter is 14, and this one is the message. And I hope this, if you try to observe the code, if you try to observe the its output, you may see that this particular line is helping us to take the input. Again, this line is going to take us the help us to take the input. Okay, but yes, there are in other, means there are certain students who usually don't write this perimeter, means they are not assigning the value directly to a variable. They will simply try to print this line in the, you can say, in the print function only. So you can also do that. Okay, you can also do that. So there is no strict restriction of having the value assigned to a variable first and then print that value. You can simply write the same thing directly in the print statement, and it will do the same. You will be getting the same output. And that's what I want to tell you, that it don't have any fixed approach. Okay, so you can follow any of the approach you want. But yes, the point is, you should understand that. Okay, let me execute it. Okay, so let me execute it. Fine, let me again execute it, control S, function F5. So again, 5 and 2, and I will get the same output, same answer. Okay, so the point is that in the previous case, what I did is that I have assigned the expression to a variable called perimeter, means the value of this particular expression will first get assigned to a variable called perimeter, and I'm printing that variable and nothing else. But now, right now, what I'm doing is that I'm not taking any of the variable. I'm simply printing its value, or the value of the expression directly in the print statement. So what is the benefit of having this is that I'm not creating a variable. But yes, just try to understand that you can follow any of the approach. It totally depends upon you. But yes, whatever be the approach you are following, you should be clear to your mind that why I am following this particular approach, or what should be the benefit of having this type of approach, or this type of strategy. I hope you got my point. Okay, so since this is our first program, and I think I've given a lots of important details, and I hope you have noted down all these things on your notebook. So now it's better to move to our second code. Okay, which is again a very simple and straightforward formula based code. But yes, the three types of code, the three program which we are doing, will actually is a straightforward formula based code. But yes, you should understand that, yes, that what should be our approach, what should be our strategy. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's move to our second code. Okay, so yeah, this one is the second code. Now first we need to understand that what are the things which we will require in order to find the volume of the cuboid. And here in this case, we require three things. First one is the length. Okay, second one is the length, breadth, and height. Okay, length, breadth, and height. These three things we will require. Okay, now just simply again I am taking float, because float would be a better choice, because the length can be of decimal points, or it cannot be of decimal point, but yes, float is a better choice for this. And you should understand that something like age, can age be of point? No, it can't be. So in that case we can take age input as integer, but if we are taking the example of a marks, then float would be a better option. Why? Because marks can be of point, means 95.5, 45.2, it can be possible. So say that's why I'm using float. Okay, so float, then let me write input enter length. Okay, now let me just copy it and paste it here again, same like that, and just simply done. Copy paste is done. Now I have taken the three input from the users for finding the volume of the cuboid. Now let me create a variable called volume, u volume, and its length into breadth into height. That's all. Length into breadth into height. HEIGST. Okay, fine. So now let me print it again. See, very simple. Nothing too much of logic creation. Simple formula based of question. But yes, important point is that you should first understand that what are the things which will be required in order to find the volume of the cuboid, and the another one is the you need to know the formula. That's all. And just print it, and let me first save it as volume, and let's execute it. Okay, let me execute it again. Okay, fine. So let's enter the length as 5, breadth as 2.5, and height as 6. And yes, I am getting an error. And the error, yes, it's good that we have got an error. Why? Because this error will help us to understand the things. So as we can see that there is a name error. Okay guys, so whenever you will find an error, it's good that we got an error. Why? Because error will actually and another point I just want to add by getting this error is that while writing codes you will definitely get error. So don't be disappointed, try to understand the error, means what this error try to mean us. So in this case we are getting a error which we called as name error. So it is telling that height is not being defined. So whenever you get an error, just have a Google of this particular error, name error, and if you Google it, you will definitely find that name error is something like a type of error which tells us that this particular variable is not being defined. So in this case, it is telling that height is not being defined. So let's move to our code. Okay, let's move to our code. And it is telling that height is not being defined. And what is that number line? Which line? It's line number, I think, line number 6. Okay, in line number 6 we are getting an error. So it's good that we got an error. So show line number. Now line number 6 we are getting that height is not being defined. And what is the reason? And the reason is that see, here I have written HEIGTH, and here I am writing HEIGHT, and these two names are different. And as we know that Python is case sensitive language, and this is not related with the case sensitive, this is simply related with the spelling, though I have given a wrong spelling. So that's why it's telling that height is not being defined. So what to do? Simply copy it, simply copy it and just paste it here. Okay, fine. Now let me remove this and execute it again. So see, we got an error, and it's a good thing that we got an error. Why? Because if errors is not coming, then you will not able to learn the codes. Okay, you will not be able to understand how the coding is being happening. So the first error we got of error, that's name error. So name error is something like if a variable is being defined and that variable is not being used, or you can say it's not being defined. So you should have a look to the line number and just check whether you have written any incorrect spelling or not. And as you can see that I have written TH or HT. So that's why I was getting an error. That's all. So it's good. that we got an error. So this practical class I hope will help us to understand a lots and lots of things. Okay, so let me write it again. 5, 2.5 and 6, and see, this time we are getting the correct output, and volume is 75.0. Okay, I hope you are able to understand how to write the code, what should be our approach, and whenever an error we got, what we should do. If it will simply show you the line number, and if you got an error, just have a Google on it, and you will get to understand that this type of error tells us this type of things. But yes, it's good, because while writing your code during your practical exams, you will definitely find errors, you will definitely get an error. So at that moment, don't be scared, don't get nervous. If you panic yourself, then definitely your brain will not work. So you should be calm at that moment. Okay, and you should understand that this a simple error, and I can definitely overcome it. So as we can see that we have got an error, that's name error. So it's good. Now let's move to our third and the final code, and that is simply the triangle, area of a triangle. So if we use the Heron's formula, then we need the sides of the triangle, but I won't be using the Heron's formula. I will be simply using the one which we already know, half into base into height. So this thing which we will be required means the you can say, if you want to make a chicken curry, so you need to understand the ingredients which we will be required in order to find in order to make chicken curry. So here in this case, the ingredients are, you can say, base and height. So let me create a variable called base, and let me, in this case, let's take it as input value. So int input, enter base of the triangle. Okay, height, height is equals to int input, enter height of the triangle. Okay, fine. Now simply area is equals to half into base into height. That's solved, and let me print it. Area is equals to area. That's all. Done. And let me remove the previous output. So this one is the previous output, so I've removed it. Let me save it as area. Control S done. F5. Now enter the height as, let me enter it as 10, and base as 10, height as 5, and it's 25. Done. Simple. The code is completed. So the point is, writing code is not at all a tough thing. You should have a clear idea why, means you should know the answers of your why's question. Why I am using this, why I am using this line, what is the benefit of having int, or what, why, when should I go for float, and what should be my approach. If this, all these things are clear to you, if you are able to understand the ingredients part in the sense that in order to find the area, you need base and height of the, means in order to find the area of the triangle, you need base and height. So you need to understand that what are the things you will be requiring, what is your target, what approach you will be using, and all the things should be clear to your mind. If all these things are clear to your mind, if you are writing a statement, and if you are getting that same output, means what do I mean to say is that if you are writing this particular statement, should have a clear idea of why you are using this statement. Okay, this statement's output should be there within your brain. If this type of thinking you are developing, then definitely you would be able to write any of the code you want. Okay, and yes, this is the end of our today's class. But yes, I just want to tell you that if you face any problem, if you are not able to understand this video, please have a look into it again. Try to practice more and more question of this type, so that you can gain more and more confidence. So it's the confidence only, guys. I'm just telling you, it's the confidence only. If you have a good level of confidence, then you can write any type of the code you want. And it's not respect to the code, it is respect to your life too. Okay, so whatever field you are following, you should practice a lot. The more you will practice, the more energy you will get, the more power you will get, and that's all. And yes, again, the same thing I just want to tell you, the comment section is for you. If you face any doubt, feel free to ask me. And if you like this video, it's my request to you, please try to share it among your friends, so that each and everyone should able to understand how to write the code, what should be our approach, what should be our techniques, and nothing else. Okay guys, so let's stop our class here. And yes, in upcoming videos we will try to practice more and more questions. And it's I'm just giving you a 100% guarantee that if you watch my videos from start to end, if you watch each and every videos, makes notes, then definitely you will going to get very good scores in your exams. It's my guarantee. Okay, but from your part, you need to be dedicated, you need to be hard working, and give 110% to whatever things you're doing that. And no one can going to stop you. So guys, that's all for today. Let's meet you in the next video. Thank you very much.